Hey everyone, my name is Andy and I've created the original handlebar jack. Because I design and manufacture e-bike accessories, my friends always ask me what kind of e-bike should I get? With so many choices out there, it can be pretty overwhelming, and I'm here to help. Now, I'm not going to talk about a specific model or brand. My goal is to arm you with the information that you need to evaluate the models and brands on your own. Let's break down all the different types of e-bikes that are currently available. There are folding bikes, mountain bikes, commuter bikes, road bikes, cargo bikes, beach cruisers, and even an electric tandem bike. And oh yeah, just a regular standard e-bike. I did forget about trikes. They have 3 wheels, they're big, they're cool, they've got 2 wheels in the back, 1 in the front, and you righty, and they're awesome. I'll add that to the list, and we'll have a video about one of those too. Now, the choices just don't stop there. There are 2 different types of motors in e-bikes. You have hub motors that are located in the wheels, or mid-drive motors that are located in the frame attached to the cranks. An e-bike's motor's power are typically rated by watts, ranging from 250 watts to 750 watts. And additionally, mid-drive motors measure torque in newton meters, where hub motors don't. And crack open those physics textbooks to figure out what a newton meter is. What's a newton meter? And then you have the batteries. You commonly have 36, 48, and 52 volt batteries. We'll talk later in detail about what watts, amps, and volts mean in relations to these battery systems. E-bikes are sold in different classes, class 1, 2, and 3. This varies in each state, but this generally means that some e-bikes have a throttle and some don't. Some can go 20 miles per hour, others go 28 miles per hour. And oh yeah, e-bikes cost a lot of money. I'm going to break down all the pros and cons and make your journey of purchasing an e-bike easy. And it starts with 2 important questions. Where do you want to ride, and what's your budget? Do you want to commute to work? Do you want to hit some trails on the weekends? Do you want to drop the kids off at school? Do you have a bad knee and you can't ride as far as you used to? You see why this first question is important. Once you know the answer to this question, we can look at the different styles of e-bikes that fit how you want to ride. Let's talk about my first category, standard e-bikes. There are a number of different styles that fit into this category. These typically have a high crossbar, diamond-shaped frame, but there are easy step-through models as well. These types of models are good if you're not that tall or have some joint issues and have trouble swinging your leg over a high bar. Our standard category of e-bikes also have fewer accessories. They may not include racks or fenders, and they may have reflectors instead of rear lights. Standard types of e-bikes tend to, have standard sized tires. Nothing too knobby or too thick or too thin like a road bike tire. They tend to have nice grip that gives you a nice smooth ride. Standard e-bikes also have some sort of front suspension fork. Options will vary based off of your price range. More of the budget-friendly options forego a front suspension fork with a rigid fork, which will impact the comfort of your ride, but they're cheaper. Another style of bikes are folding e-bikes. These bikes do what the name says. They fold in half and the handlebars fold down and they store in a very compact space. They are convenient for people who don't have a lot of space, maybe live in an apartment, or just don't want a large e-bike taking up space in the garage. Folding e-bikes tend to have smaller wheels which can impact the comfort of the ride, and typically the battery capacity is a bit smaller. This is definitely more of a niche type market e-bike, but if it's what you want, they're pretty amazing. Fat tire e-bikes are next, and these things are fun to ride. Again, like the name indicates, they have big 3 and 4 inch wide tires. These bikes are a bit of a crossover as they work well on streets, bike paths, light trails, and sandy beach paths. There's a huge subset of utility fat tire e-bikes that work well for recreational off-road riding and even hunting activities. Like many e-bikes, fat tire e-bikes in particular tend to have a lot of accessories. Rear racks, surfboard racks, and trailers. Lots of cool stuff that can expand the utility. Something to consider about fat tire e-bikes though is that they are big, heavy, and clunky, which can make them a bit cumbersome getting them into a bike rack and moving them around. Next we have beach cruiser style e-bikes. These bikes have a very relaxed riding position and are typically a bit bigger with bigger tires. Beach Cruiser e-bikes come with a comfortable saddle and swept back handlebars, which gives you that really nice relaxed riding position. They are good for general riding around, street riding, bike paths, but definitely not trails or off-road because Beach Cruiser style e-bikes don't have a front suspension fork and they rely on bigger tires to add comfort to your ride. Another style of e-bike is the cargo or utility e-bike. These purpose-built bikes are made to carry more than one person or cargo. They tend to be longer and heavier and have a ton of accessories like kid seat compatible attachment points, running boards, front and rear cargo baskets, front and rear fenders, and even dual battery options. Like fat tire bikes, these bikes are big and heavy. It'll take up a lot of space in your garage. These bikes work great if you live in a small community and want to replace a lot of your daily driving with an e-bike. Most of the e-bikes we just talked about have a top assisted speed of about 20 miles per hour, but some can go as fast as 28 miles per hour, like the bikes in our next category, commuter e-bikes. Commuter e-bikes share a lot of similar design traits with standard e-bikes. They tend to be diamond or step-through style frames. Commuter e-bikes tend to include integrated headlights, taillights, and some of the newer ones, the rear taillights are connected to your brakes and they actively turn on when you're braking. They come with front and rear fenders, and that helps keeps the water and road grime off while riding. They also tend to be Class 3 e-bikes, which means they're faster with a top speed of about 28 miles per hour. For all of the bikes we've talked about so far, there are models available with hub motors or mid-drive motors. In another video, I'll break down the differences between these two types of motors. But the next few categories of e-bikes we're going to talk about are almost exclusively outfitted with mid-drive motors. If you're an adrenaline junkie and you love hitting the trails, then an eMountain bike or eMTB is for you. These bikes are designed to be as nimble as a regular mountain bike. Like I mentioned earlier, eMountain bikes are exclusively fitted with mid-drive motors. The reason behind this is that the weight of the motor is centrally balanced and built into the frame. And because the mid-drive motor drives the chain to multiply the pedal power of the rider, these bikes are much better on hills versus rear hub motors. And since the motor is housed in the bottom of the frame where the cranks are located, this leaves eMountain bikes open to a host of third-party components and upgrades. Everything from quad piston hydraulic brakes, automatic seat dropper posts, high-end shifters, and a myriad of front fork suspension options. eMountain bikes come in a few different base configurations: front suspension and full suspension e-bikes. And as you can imagine, a full suspension e-bike can be a bit costly, but man, they make a huge difference on the trail. Like eMountain bikes, e-road bikes only have mid-drive motors for the same reasons. It keeps the bike nimble and the center of gravity as close to the cranks as possible. And many of the really nice high-end e-road bikes have a completely integrated battery that's not removable. This trade-off is made to keep the bike as sleek and aerodynamic as possible. And again, e-road bikes are very close to standard road bikes so that you can add just about any road bike accessory or upgrades that you like. The last category of e-bike I'm going to talk about, but not spend a whole lot of time on, is the whole category of off-road, private land usage only e-bikes. In the United States, the legal power limit for any e-bike is 750 watts. And now, there are a ton of e-bike manufacturers out there that make 1,000 watt to 5,000 watt e-bikes. And in my humble opinion, you're very quickly getting out of the realm of something recreational and into something more professional. And that also raises the risk of injury considerably. I would only consider one of these types of bikes if you have a ton of experience with these types of machines. At this point, this is where budget becomes a consideration. The more budget-friendly e-bikes tend to have rear hub motors, where the more pricier models tend to have mid-drive motors. The quality of the bike components also impact price. Things like the type of frame material, hydraulic disc brakes versus mechanical disc brakes, the quality of the derailleur, shifters, saddle, and even the pedals. In future videos, I'm going to dive into all of these details that we just spoke about. I'm going to talk about the pros and cons of the different motor styles, and I'm going to help you understand the power ratings and demystify amps and volts in your e-bike battery systems. So now you're probably thinking, Andy, all this information is amazing, but where do I buy an e-bike? Well, there are many options. You can buy one from an online bike manufacturer. If so, how do you get that serviced? And I have an answer for that. Does it also make sense to buy from a local bike shop or a big box store? You can do that as well. It's not a quite clear-cut answer, as there's pros and cons to all of these choices. And again, I'm here to help you through this journey. Okay, you stayed here this long. I gotta say it. If you like this video, please hit the little button down there or over here. Give me a thumbs up. You can do a little typey down below if I said something wrong. And we'll see you next time. Okay, bye.